So, welcome, and I'm Shay Sisler today, and I have my friend Murielle Fellous here with me, and we are talking today about a past life regression that Murielle had, which was amazing.
Yes.
So we're going to talk a little bit about her experience and what information she got out of it. So before I go and get into it, I would like to know a little bit about Murielle, because can you just tell us about you and who you are and maybe how we met? So
Yes, and as you're gonna hear in my accent,
I love it.
I'm from France originally. I grew up in France, and then I left for Israel when I was 18, where I stayed a little bit over 10 years. And I met my ex-husband there, which brought me to the US. I now reside in Las Vegas, and we met through Luminosity Center,
the wellness center. Yeah,
the wellness center, because you interviewed me.
Yeah, I was doing the health and wellness hour.
Yes.
And you came in and
Yes.
did a show with us there.
And then I decided to book a session with you, because I think
It's
that
amazing.
there is so much treasures and understanding to find in past life regressions, to
Yeah.
understand our present and maybe build our future in a way that will serve us better.
Yeah, yeah. So what was your had you had a past life before, or what was your experience with past life prior to having one?
I did some regressions, with recording. Recordings.
It's like self-regression?
Self-regressions. And I got some pieces of information. But the experience part of it was completely different, because when we did the session, I really was present there, feeling what I felt in those lives. And I was even surprised when I listened to the recording I felt that I was stressed and sad in one of them, and I was actually crying. I was actually feeling it in the moment and getting so much understanding from what I felt.
And one of the things, just so our listeners understand, when you do a past life regression, you actually go into the life of that person that you've been regressed to. You feel the emotions. You feel like you're there.
Yes.
You're living it again. And one of the things I do want to point out is that if you are in something and it's very emotional, very stressful, we do take you out of that. You cried, and sometimes it's good to experience that and see what the emotions are. But let's just kind of take a look at how, like when you first came in, we had an interview process. How did you feel during that interview process?
The interview was pretty regular, like nothing special about the interview.
Mm-hmm. Were you comfortable expressing things and answering the questions that we talked about? Now, you brought a list of questions with you, right?
I think I did.
Do you remember?
I can't remember because the experience was so strong that I kind of forgot.
Yeah, honestly, and we'll kind of explore some questions. I didn't even think to look at the questions before you came in today, because I do keep those, so I know. But yeah, anyway, I have people prepare a list of questions before they come in, so that we go over those questions and make sure I have a really thorough understanding of what the intention is out of the question.
Yeah.
So we cover that. We cover any major turning points in your life, any accidents, or your growing up years. What was it like growing up with your family or your brothers and sisters? And if you have any past divorces, relationships. So we kind of go over all of that so that I have a really good understanding. So when we get into the past life, I can kind of dig down deeper into the past life.
Yes.
And then also we like to find out if anybody in your past life is someone in your current life.
Oh, that was obvious.
Yeah.
My regression.
Yes.
And I just went through a very traumatic event in this life where I understood the source of it in past lives.
Yeah.
It was so powerful.
And so what was that? You want to share with our audience what that was?
I got actually, in this life, I got contaminated by someone with hepatitis C. And he literally didn't care if I was dead or alive. I don't know that he actually got tested, because he was probably those carriers that contaminate everybody, but they don't suffer themselves. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to understand if I attracted that to myself now, if there was a connection in the past, to let go completely of the negative energy that was attached to that specific event in my life, and to also let go of the emotions that could still be in me. And it was obvious that the source, the stem of that story was in a previous life where we already had something
history.
Yes.
Yes.
And that, so it led me to understand really well what was my lesson in this life, what I needed to do in this life so that I would not meet him again in that way in a future life.
Yeah.
And for now to really heal on a deep level, so I wouldn't drag that with me in my future. Because with something like this, you can feel like a victim, you can feel there is so much resentment under the surface. When you live with those kind of things, of course, it's going to affect your life in a negative way. And it really helped me. I don't like the word forgive because it's so emotionally charged. To me, forgive is very hard to achieve because there is still like, it's almost saying it's okay what you did, and to me it's more letting go. I let go of the emotional charge. You have your own karma, your own relationship with the universe. This is your story. I, from my side, let go of the negative charge, and I learn the lesson and continue. And that's what it helped me to do that, to understand.
Good. So let's talk about your first experience that you went into, the first life that you had.
It was fun.
Yeah.
That's where I felt the sadness and the stress because
So let me just point out, when I bring people into the past life, I bring them in, we get them grounded into that life. So we try to find out if they're male or female, if they're young or old, if they're, how they're dressed, kind of get a time period. So that's what we had established in there. And Murielle came down as a woman. She was somewhat of a diva. And so if you want to tell us a little bit about what you remember from
what I
experience.
remember is, first of all, I was surprised because I was expecting to see my life and know everything about it in one shot. That's not what happened. I lived through the experience as if it was happening to me today, because we know in science there is no time, so you can travel like this. And I lived and I understood the frustrations that I had in this life, where actually those frustrations came back in this present life with the same people, I mean souls. And I understood why it was so important that I had done all the work I did on myself in this life. And I also had fun because I was a performer, and in this life I love public speaking, I love theater, I feel natural with that. So it was fun to go back and see, oh, that started maybe there. And it
way
was
back then,
fun.
yeah. And you carry those
too.
traits over.
It was so much fun.
Yeah.
And I love the outfits that I was wearing. I still have a deep connection with this style in this life.
And what time frame would you say that was
So
about?
I think it's in the 1900s or maybe 1920s.
20s. That's what was kind of in my mind, what I was picturing about the 1920s.
The
The flapper girls
Charleston, and the feathers and the things on the head. Oh, very fun.
Yeah, I know. And then you were really living it. You were loving your audience. I mean, you would get up there and you would just engage with your audience. It was like you had so much joy, so much passion.
Yes.
For that. Yet when you would go home, you were like the master of your life, and you were in control of everybody. Your servants were afraid of you
because I had all the burden of
taking care of
feeding everybody, taking care of everybody, managing everybody, which I reproduced in this life for quite some time until I said, you know what, I'm not doing that anymore. But I could identify with what I went through during the regression because that's what I felt here. I'm divorced with 3 kids, raised 3 kids by myself, financially by myself, with all the burden on my back until one day I said, it's not serving anyone. When we do negative patterns like this, it doesn't serve anyone. So that life, I recognized that, but even stronger. And that turned me into someone that I didn't like in that previous life, which actually I learned the word in English since then because I didn't know it during the regression. It's a shrew.
A shrew?
Yeah. So somebody who was not nice to be around.
Right.
But it was because she was suffering herself.
Right.
So it helped me have compassion for myself and compassion for others, because I wasn't easy, and also to heal that. I mean, I already had started to heal in this life, but it's a confirmation, and it's
right. And one of the other things I want to point out is when we do the regression, we ask the higher self to take you to the most appropriate time and place. We don't direct the session to where it's going to go. We want your higher self to take you to what's important, what you need to see today.
Yes.
And that's why this particular life was shown to you, because there were aspects of that life that you needed to look at that were affecting this life.
Yes.
And so you were able to see through all of that.
And I was very surprised when I listened to the recording, because my voice, when I was under hypnosis and when you were talking to that part of myself, first of all, I had a physical symptom. I don't know if it's a symptom, but I could feel all that side of myself that in my mind I black. And I knew this side of myself was the one connecting to my higher self. It even had a shape. It's hard to describe because it's a feeling.
Right.
And this part was speaking with a voice that was much different. You see how I'm alive here, and naturally it was much slower and much deeper. Mm-hmm. And the feeling was different. Mm-hmm. I can still summon that part of myself because of our session and ask questions for myself.
That's cool. You're able to make that connection easier. And I have had a couple of people who I've done sessions for that have told me after they have their session, they can now easily, more effectively connect to the higher self and get there without me. And really, honestly, we all have that part of us.
Yes.
You don't need me to do this, but this is a good catalyst to get you moving into that direction, to being able to connect.
It's important to have somebody next to you, because
Kind of
when
help
you
guide
go
you.
into deep feelings, it helps you. If you see that I'm struggling too much, you can bring me back.
Right.
Where for me, maybe it would be more difficult to do that with myself when I'm in it.
Right. Now, I want to ask you about your conscious mind, because when you're in there, we try to connect with that higher self, the higher part of you, but the conscious mind is still there. And what did we have to do on yours several times?
Well, I had to come back, and you had to put me back under hypnosis, especially at one time. I remember the message, and I'm going to deliver the message how it came to me. And the message was she needs to understand that she's all that. And for me, it's so arrogant to say that I got kicked off the hypnotic stage. And I said, no, I can't accept that. That's no. And I need to take that message not literally, but understand that I just need to recognize my value. That's what it meant. And that's something that everybody struggles a little bit more or less with that.
Right.
But for me, it was really a big taboo to say that I'm all that. Oh my gosh, how arrogant. And it kicked me out, so you had to put me back in.
And it was so funny, because when that would happen to her, and then I would tell, she'd start laughing or something, and she'd say, yeah, this is what I heard. So then I'd have to remind the conscious mind to sit off onto the right shoulder and just allow the higher self to
you
come
don't lose
through.
Control. It's not scary at all. I mean, you're always you.
Yeah, you're always there. You always know what's going on.
Yeah.
A lot of people think in hypnosis that you're put out and you're asleep or you're out. And what did you feel? You were totally aware. Were you
I
not?
was aware. It was like going into another part of myself. Mm-hmm. And that's funny. You know, we live in Vegas, so hypnosis and on stage and all the baloney
that comes with that, and that's what people think.
That's
that
not what it is. No.
Yeah. And honestly, the past life regression too, I do want to point out, it's not even so much about the past life anymore. It's about the messages and the healing that comes through the sessions. At the end, we do a body scan, and then of course we're going to get into this a little bit later, because I want to find out how you've taken this after your session, how it worked for you. But let's just kind of finish looking at this first past life. You had a son that was very challenging, and in this particular past life, and you're trying to manage everybody. I think your ex-husband was there kind of in the background.
He was present in this life, in that life, and I could recognize him by the energy of him.
Yeah. And you were able to control him as well in that life.
Well,
maybe not in this life, but in that life.
It was like he didn't really have power because I was the source of the money for everybody. So it gave me some kind of authority and power.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel the dominant feeling that came out of this life until at a certain point it became better and I ended at peace. But at the beginning was that I forgot what I was going to say. But I had no help.
Yeah.
I had no help. Everybody was helpless. Everybody was waiting for me to give directions or instructions, and it's extremely hard to
have
do
all
that.
of that burden on
Yes.
you of managing
So I
everybody's
felt
life around you.
helpless too, because I felt that it was only me, and you cannot do everything. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Until one point where somebody stepped in, and right away the feeling of having somebody at the same level as you, that you don't need to take care of him anymore. He's here to support.
Yeah. And so that
a
person,
release in my body.
that person came into your life
Yes.
in that life later on too.
Yes.
And then you felt at peace
Yes.
with him. And then you had children. And
I had children already at that point,
okay.
but
this
I
one.
had grandchildren. I saw
We
myself.
took you to the last day of your life, and then you remember hearing grandma, so you knew you had grandkids that were there.
Yes.
And it appeared to be that your husband had passed on already
Yes,
before you. So what did it feel like going through the death scene? Do you remember?
Peaceful.
So, very peaceful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Peaceful, because all the worries that I had for my kids vanished because they were okay.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that's a relief.
Okay.
That's really
And so what was the learning in that life? Do you remember what the purpose of that life was for?
To me, let go of wanting to control everything, because that's impossible and that's too much of a burden, and you're an annoyance to everybody else.
Uh-huh.
And no, there is people who are at your level able to help you.
Mm-hmm.
Just relax.
Yeah, yeah. And I think when we went through your thing, I think the purpose was to stop doing everything for everybody.
Yeah.
So that was a message, and
Oh, yeah.
you probably have a tendency to do that in this life
Oh,
too, right?
yeah, well.
So,
but I'm so much
but you're
better.
learning. Yeah.
I mean, everything is a learning process, and I learned that with my kids today. Well, they're all teenagers now, but I need to let them take responsibility for their stuff, because it doesn't help anyone
right.
to be like in French we say like a mother hen. I don't know if you say
Yeah.
that.
No, we say that here too.
Yeah.
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 And you know what? When you're a mother, and I mean, I don't have children, but I know, look at my friends and my, family, when they have kids, that's what they do.
Yeah.
You're a mother and you take care of them, and you never stop being a mother. It doesn't
Yeah.
end when
No,
they
it
become
doesn't.
adults or, whatever, because you're always the mother.
And I'm coming from a cultural background. I'm Jewish, so it's like everybody in the family is involved with each other, and we're all trying to help. And the Jewish
Right.
mother, she tries to do everything.
To everything.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, so then we went on to Past Life number 2. Do you remember what Past Life number 2
Yeah,
was?
it was fun too.
So tell us a little bit about that one.
So I felt, I almost felt like in a movie, those kind of women that were ahead of their time, where they were way more emancipated than the women of the actual time. And it led me to understand why I love so much in this life, where I have such a strong connection with women when I coach them, because it's like a tribe, and it was happening there too,
as well.
where I was helping them get free of the stigmas of the time and all the the women condition that wasn't so ultimate at the time. And also I was a journalist in that time, in that life.
Yeah.
And I love doing that in this life too. I do interviews I love, and I love writing stories. And so, but this one was really fun because I got to be accepted by the masculine side, by the men,
Right,
as one of them.
Because I remember one
I
of
was
the great
smoking
things.
cigars.
Yeah, you were smoking cigars. It's like in a gentleman's club, in a men's
Yes.
club. You were dressed like a man, but
Yeah,
they
I
were
had like suspenders.
Yeah.
And
but
totally
they
not
were
acceptable. for the
allowing
time.
you to come in and be a
Yeah.
part of their world, which
Yes.
isn't and wasn't
No.
acceptable during
No.
that time.
But that's
So-
why I could help women so much, because I had some kind of
It's the ice cream truck coming by. So
I was one. I had some kind of position in society where nobody was really bothering or trying to impose stuff on me, because they could not. I wouldn't let them do that.
Right. And it's got to be so strong and powerful of that day. And you carry those traits over into this life as well.
I feel that.
Yeah.
Doing the regressions helped me understand who I am today so much.
Right.
I mean, it's
I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
And you traveled a lot. I think you went to Africa, so you were
Yes.
out there a lot. But you were even with the women, and that's what I thought was really great, because you were still dressed like a man when you were with the
Yeah.
women, even. So the women were accepting of you as well.
Yeah.
And so you were able to go in there and help them, grow and expand and believe beyond where they were and find their power.
which I still do today in this life. So
Yeah.
that's what I love doing.
Yeah, so how did those two lives help you in today? I mean, what was your greatest learning from all of those, would you say?
What comes to mind right now is that I took those strengths with me. I have them. It's amazing, because I know, and somehow it helps me feel. When you start doing a business and you're expanding, sometimes you feel like, oh, who am I to start thinking that I'm going to be all that?
But they told you you were all that.
And it helped me feel legitimate in the fact that today I'm an authority in my coaching, and there is even proof that I gathered those strengths back then, and it becomes even stronger. And it also helps me be more. I'm already selective in who I let into my life today, because of all the work that I've done, because of all the painful and dysfunctional relationships I went through in this life. But I became even more careful about how do I want to interact with someone who's not behaving in the way that I like, who maybe is not nice with me, like that guy who contaminated me. I don't want to drag that in another life. I want to heal it now.
Right.
And it helped me understand that I need to step in my power to, first of all, let them go emotionally, and set boundaries. I'm not playing anymore. I'm not letting you cross that. This is my territory. You're not going to do that again.
And once you understand your past a little bit, you know those boundaries are a little bit easier to draw.
Yeah.
And you know that you know what you'll accept and what you won't.
Yeah.
The other thing I like about that is that the strong person that you were there, you can call on that person today to bring through, the skills that you had then and the talents that you had.
Yes.
So when you're that writer and you want to write, you can call upon those skills that you had then.
And it's not even in your mind, you call it with your body.
Yeah.
Because you went through the experience in this life, in those past lives, you know how it feels in your body. It's not a mental concept anymore, it's a feeling. Emotion in the body. So you summon that. Even before I did the regression, I summoned on my abilities as a energy healer, because I work with Reiki. And I always believed that I could do that, but going through the regressions and really feeling in my body how I felt when in this life I was a performer and I was on the top of my game, I can call back on that feeling and feel more confident when I step in front of everybody to give a speech, or I'm registering now into a class for theatrical improvisation. And that's linked to that.
As well.
I forgot how fun it was. How am I fun now?
That's good though. It is good that you're exploring that. You
Yes.
know what I mean? Because that's what this life is all about.
Oh,
That's
yes.
what it should be. It should be about the fun and bringing that all back. And we all should not be living under so much stress that
Yes.
we do, and find those avenues where we can go have our joy and have our fun.
Yes.
So, I want to point out, after we've left those two lives and you went through the death scene, and the death scene wasn't scary at all,
No.
right? And you went, where did you go? Let's talk about that for
So
a
that's
second.
so fun because so you said so you guided me and I found myself in between lives, but you know how images come to us in a way that we can understand with
Right.
our own references. I saw all my soul family having a barbecue together and so much joy. I was like surprised and
Yeah.
it's so not, you know,
It's not what you would
divine
imagine.
way
Yeah.
that you think. No, it was just a casual barbecue. All of us together, the ones who passed.
Yeah.
My second husband in that life was actually on the barbecue doing the
Doing the
things.
grill, yeah.
And I think it's a metaphor, probably an imagery that I could relate to, but it was so much fun. It was like,
Well, and one of the things I love about this past life regression, and I'm actually kind of starting to work more into the spirit world regressions, because of that I'm finding so much more passion and joy in lately, because when people leave their past life and they go into the spirit world, they're living their life there. They have families, they have things that they do, they water ski, they're artists, they do, it's their whole life is there. This right here is just a temporary
yeah,
situation, and we have these suits, these body suits, human suits that we put on, but this is not our really true essence. We just come down here to learn lessons. So when you go back there, you're really truly with your true family at all
and the
times.
feeling is so different because this life, although there is a lot of fun when you're in a body, it feels heavier.
Yeah.
When you are going in between the lives, everything is light and joy, and same thing, we can't really explain because it's something we feel,
Yeah.
but it's so much expanded and
Yeah.
joyful.
Yeah. So, and I find I love going there because, since we've done your session, I've explored that a little bit more to see further when we go in there. So maybe next time we do one, we'll have to explore
Yeah.
further and go into there. But I thought that was really fun when you said that
It
your
was
husband was
surprising.
barbecuing. And
I was surprised.
yeah, and then I want to point out too, a lot of times when you have family members in your soul group that you
Yeah.
come and incarnate down here, sometimes those people that are in your soul group, they say, hey, I'm going to go down there and I'm going to teach you compassion. So they come down here and they're just horrible people
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah.
But in this life, in these human eyes that we're looking and experiencing this, we see it at a whole different viewpoint because we think this person is the worst person in the world, when actually they're really part of your soul group that has made a contract with you, in other words, to come down here and help you to learn that.
And that I knew already because since my divorce, when you go through very challenging situations and events in your life, there is so much, there is the anger, there is the feeling of being
Right.
betrayed or whatever it is. I always knew, and I always tell my kids that although it seems horrible at a human level, on a spiritual level, they are your allies. They're part of your tribe because they came here to kick your butt.
Yeah,
Because you wouldn't
exactly.
learn otherwise. Unfortunately, we learn most of the time through difficulties.
Yes.
And it's actually even more beautiful because they accepted to play the part of the bad guy, like in a movie,
Yeah,
that nobody is gonna like,
yeah.
because they are serving you in a way, and you're serving them too, but it's an
Yeah.
exchange.
Yeah, and that you've agreed to come down here and teach each other and help.
Yeah.
Because that's what this is. This is a learning school.
Yeah.
We come down here to learn.
Yes.
So, all right, so after we have explored your family soul group up there, then we ask to speak to the higher self. And you remember making that connection with your higher self. What did that feel like?
So that's where half of my mind eye was black. All that side I couldn't see anything. It felt like, those cathedrals, like the modern ones that are made in glass, where it's pointy like this. I could feel a shape.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, it was a completely different part of me that I didn't really know. I never connected to that part.
And so when I'm asking questions of your higher self and I'm having a response, what did it feel like to you when you were responding to my question?
It's strange. It's
different
like it's
feeling.
not in my brain. It's coming from somewhere else. I don't even know what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Usually before you speak, somehow you have maybe a few seconds where you have the intention to say this or that.
Right.
I didn't know what else.
Yeah,
It's like
and-
when I do automatic writing, where
just
I don't know what word is going to come on the page. It's that same feeling.
Mhm.
I don't know what's going to come out.
Yeah, and that's one of the ways I can always tell when I'm talking to the higher self or I'm talking to the conscious mind. Because our conscious mind, like you said, you take a few minutes to think about it and then you speak. When I ask the questions of the higher self, it just comes out. There's no thought in it. And, you know, I've had people tell me different things. The higher self will tell me things like, no, she needs to do this, this, and this. And
Yeah.
we had a couple of those in yours too.
And it
that were
addressed, it talked about me as a she, and
That's she.
I knew it wasn't me because I don't speak
Oh,
about myself
yeah,
as a
yeah.
she. No, she needs to. I was okay.
Yeah, and so when you hear that, you're just like, wow, you know, like, okay, so what does she need to do? And then what I try to do is I try to dig down deeper to get more answers for you.
Yeah.
Because this is where the point where we go over your list of questions.
Yes, I remember now.
And just going through a couple of things, your purpose, let's see.
I don't even remember my purpose.
Yeah.
What is it?
Well, and that's just one thing. I asked the higher self, you could have shown her any lifetime.
Yes.
Why did you show her these two lives?
Oh, yes, I
Okay.
know.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the first one they showed you because they wanted to show you it's fun and to have
Yes.
fun
Yes.
and not to take
Be
everything-
lighter.
Be
Yeah.
lighter, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was important, you know,
Yes.
because that's going to help you move forward in your life, knowing
Yes.
that you need to look for the fun. And then the other one, you heard that the word, what master, what does that mean? I don't know why I put that down there. Well, I'll cut that out, okay. The other thing they said is you need to stop taking care of everything. So your higher self told you that same thing. Even though we asked that after your life, what you thought the purpose was, your higher self said the same thing. So that tells us how connected we are to our higher self in a lot of cases too. Because your conscious mind a lot of times has the answers to all these questions that people do bring in. But to get lighter was the big thing on that.
And I remember something else from my experience too. I have generally a very positive outlook on life, and I believe that there is good in everybody. And I always had a hard time even to conceive that somebody would do wrong because they want to. They don't care about you, they want what they want. I don't know if they necessarily want to hurt you, but they don't care if they hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a tendency to, because I can feel and see, and as a coach, that's why I'm a good coach, I can see the light in someone. Despite sometimes the patterns that they have where they behave not in such a great way. I need to stop doing that and see what I have in front of my nose. That was one of the conclusions from that reading too.
Yeah.
Like look, stop being like too, I don't know the word, but like trying to see the light and see
the
what you
good and
have
everything. Yeah, that's
concretely, like down to earth.
Well, and the other thing that came through really strong from your higher self was that you don't see evil and you don't think that any bad things are out there. But they said to wake up, basically, that there is, and you need to protect yourself. You need to be aware because there is.
And that actually, this notion of protection, with that reading it became stronger because I realized, of course, because I got sick, that wake up, you can die.
Yeah.
And you need to protect yourself at all levels and even emotionally. And I think, even though I was not really conscious about the impact of that reading, but it's becoming more, it's a process.
Yeah.
And a few, I don't remember when we did it, but in the last few months after we did the reading, I downloaded a book. Every piece of the puzzle came in place, and that book is so obvious to me. And it's also about not putting yourself, not exposing yourself in danger at all levels, physical and emotionally, to gain love from others. Stop doing that. And that became one of my messages.
So what was that book?
No, I'm writing it right now.
Oh, you're writing
Yes.
it. It came to you, the book.
Yes,
Got
it
you.
came to me. And also a coaching product came to me through that, understanding that there are ways that we attract those kind of people, because first of all, either like me, you don't know, you can conceive like really of bad things out there and you don't protect enough, but you're also a magnet for those kind of things because of the way you behave and you think. And I created a product that I'm going to launch where you actually, you know how we talked about the law of attraction all the time? I'm talking about the law of repulsion.
A repression?
Repulsion.
Repulsion.
Yes. Because you want to become repelling to those kind of people.
Right.
And there is a way to do that. But it's a learning. And that's what I want to teach women also, same kind of women who would be maybe not to that point where they would be physically exposed to danger, but emotionally over and over and over in their relationships.
Right.
When they put themselves in danger, not even considering themselves because they want the love.
Right.
Become repulsive to those kind of people. And that way, even if they are attracted to those guys because there are mental patterns, subconscious patterns that make you attracted to these manipulators and those dangerous guys, the guys wouldn't even be attracted by them because they put out that vibe that they don't like.
Stay away, basically.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. And we'll put the information at the bottom, how to get a hold of Murielle if anybody is interested in any of her classes or things that she has to offer, because she's got some really great things coming up and in the works, and can't wait to read your book and hear about your workshops and all of that you're putting together, because this has been a really great experience for you.
It has been, and it's like, you don't realize when you do it, but then later on everything falls
The puzzle pieces come together.
It's fabulous because it's a process. Nothing is random. This reading wasn't random. I needed to realize certain stuff. Like, I have the feeling almost to be not really transformed from a lamb into a wolf, but maybe a little bit, but not a wolf that would be dangerous, but a wolf that's like, you will step in my territory or else. That's something like that.
Well, and like you said, I am directed and guided myself, and so when I ask someone for a session, I'm being guided to ask you because your higher self or your guides are telling my guides, our teams are working together, saying, hey, we need her to come in for a session because we need her to wake up or move forward or do something. So whenever I ask somebody for a session, or if they want a session, or they come into contact with me, it's because we're being guided, and things like that are happening for that reason.
Yes.
So
we're all connected too.
Yeah, so it's just amazing how all the synchronicities start coming together, and the friendships that you make throughout it. It's just amazing. I do want to ask another question. We mentioned the men that you had in your past lives. We were given the message about your future husband is coming
My future
from
husband.
your first past life that we looked at.
Yes.
So he is coming.
And it's funny because before we did the regression, I had a few dreams where I feel him, but I can't see him. In the past life, I saw him as he looked in my past life. I still don't know how he's going to look.
Coming in.
But I know the feeling.
Yeah.
So and it's an amazing feeling because I never had that in this life where I could finally rest.
Breathe. Yeah.
I have somebody, there is a shoulder for me. It doesn't mean he's going to do everything because I'm an independent woman and I like to, but he's going to be like,
you're going to be a team.
Support.
Yeah. We'll be working together.
I know the feeling, so I can recognize it. You know how we are talking about attraction. Now that I know the feeling, practicing a feeling, sending that vibe into the universe will attract it. So I can go back to that feeling and
send it out. Yeah. And do you remember they gave you a message of things that you had to do to prepare for him coming? Do you remember what they were?
Well, I remember that I needed to take myself seriously. Somehow it relates to the understanding that she's all that, because otherwise he can pass me by, like feel secured with him. Like
and have joy. Joy was a big thing too.
Okay.
To have joy, because
I need to really listen to my reading.
Needs to have joy and he will show up. So not there. He's there, but he's just not here. But when you have joy, then he will show up. Okay. And she needs to take her self seriously.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah, that was a big
Yeah.
one. So. Anyway, let's see. She needs to stop wasting time with losers. That was another message.
Yeah, but I'm done with that.
That we were given. Yeah, that's over. And she will feel it in her body, stay present. She needs to anchor and do grounding. That was another message you got a lot.
Grounding?
Grounding.
Yes.
Stay present in your body and
yes,
ground.
and that's because, you know, when you work with energy, you have a natural ability to connect. And all my life, I've been somehow
Up here. Yeah.
And I just now learned to really descend back in my body. The feeling is so different. I never knew that feeling until I started practicing. And as I was telling you before the interview, I am practicing grounding because otherwise I put stuff everywhere, I forget where I put them. I have so many ideas, I get lost in them. So I get back in my body and ground.
Yeah, and you don't realize, a lot of us don't realize how we probably do that. And that's like,
Yes.
yeah, I'm always losing my keys or
Yes.
I can't figure stuff out. You know, my
Yes.
husband's always getting on me for something,
Yes.
you know, and I'm like, yeah, I need to be grounded myself.
Yes.
And I've been told that during...
But that's why you're
many-
such a great healer, because you're able to do that and connect and bring
Yeah.
it back to your clients. Everything comes with positive and negative.
Right, yeah. Now, I love this work, and this work is so amazing. It's just amazing to me that, you know, we're able to get answers to all these questions that we have in life. And we've just been, I've always asked, you know, what's my purpose? Why am I here? And so when I finally found the answers to a lot of this, it's really been eye-opening for me. So, I don't have my glasses on, so let's see. Let's see. Stop fooling around. Oh yeah, and I don't know if you remember that you need to stop fooling around. Remember that remember who you were. That's what they say. You need to stop fooling around and remember who you were. Because that you're great. You're a great person and you have greatness in you. So
That's funny because I had a friend of my friend telling me that she's a psychic and she told me that too.
Yeah.
Remember who you are. It's like I don't know if you've seen the Disney movies Lion King, but there is a scene that reminds me of that because I love that movie. It's a cartoon, and it tells to the lion, remember who you are, and that's what we all need to do at a certain level.
And that's
We're
just
powerful.
That's just it, you know. I have a sister who struggles with depression, and I'll sit down and I'll talk to her, and I just tell her, you are not this body. If you only knew who you were, and we're all that, you know. We are all that.
Yes.
That message.
We are.
And it's like, you know, being able to tap into that and remember who we are is just phenomenal, and because we are all amazing, and we've
been taught to not look at that because it's bragging. It's in our society, it's like there is no problem with making jokes about yourself and putting yourself down, but the opposite is not accepted.
Right.
And somehow because of that we miss on seeing our magnificence. And that's a pity.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are magnificent, each one in our own way. We're unique, we're magnificent, we're so much more than what we see.
What we see here, exactly. So that's why I love this work, because I think it's just important that we all help each other in the community to help find that part of us.
Yes.
So, well, is there any last things you want to make a comment on, or how has it changed your life? Let's discuss that. And then
I don't know if it changed my life,
Okay.
but it helped me hone my stuff. And the main thing I always remember every time I go into my crazy, like, doubting about, you know, I have big visions for where I want to go with my business, and sometimes I'm like, you know, like everyone else, who do you think you are that you're going to go there? I remember that thing, you're all that. I said, okay, Murielle, go back. You're all that. And that's my mantra, not in an arrogant way, but in open to see who you are, because if you don't see your own magnificence, you can't help anyone. And you have a treasure, you came here with a treasure. It's selfish to not give that treasure out.